Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Speaking of Sundara, where I talk about my Sundara Dawn of a New Age fantasy RPG setting for both Pathfinder Classic and Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. And for those who look over my shoulder, it appears that I have a co-host this evening, so love for Jaeger. Just leave a comment below. I'll read them to him, and we can see whether or not he comes back, since he's graced us with his presence for once. But unfortunately, this week I'm not talking about familiars, though I might have a video on that later. But this week I wanted to talk about one of my newest releases for the setting that added a lot of flavor and a lot of mechanics to the things people can do, which is Sellswords of Sundara. And for those who haven't seen it, it's a collection of 10 different mercenary companies that are from all across the setting, and it provides their history, their combat doctrine, their uniforms, their general strategies, notable NPCs, rumors you can throw in about them, all of that good stuff. And then at the end of it, just to sort of seal the deal, you get either a subclass if you're playing 5th edition, or you get an archetype if you're a Pathfinder player. And I thought that was a lot of fun, partially because it helped me really flesh out the setting, but also because on a broader sense, Sundara's power structures are relatively small. I mentioned this back when I talked about the philosophy behind why we have cities and not countries and nations like we're used to. And as such, none of them really have standing armies, so a lot of the larger scale conflicts or bigger problems that we think of are handled by people who are willing to fight for coin. And if you wanted to use that as part of your character's background, or just bring them in as NPCs as sort of a useful force you can either have fun with or maybe antagonize a bit if you happen to be in the party, then these 10 companies give you a lot to play with, and they sort of do a lot of the heavy lifting for you if you're a storyteller. And I figured that rather than just going through all 10 of them and listing out an exhaustive amount of stuff, I'd just pick my top 3 and just sort of sell folks on those, see if they really want to check these out. And starting the list, we have the Fists of Cormuz. And if you are a fan of monks, then they are going to be the group for you. The Fists are one part warrior cult, one part just death squad. And they are focused on the art of the fist, as the name might imply. But what makes them sort of unique among monks is they fight with just armor-clad hands, whether it's spiked gauntlets, cestus, standard gauntlets, enchanted, or just normal if you're just an acolyte. Their martial arts style is entirely based on using the gauntlet as a single individual weapon that trumps everything else, and it is both attack and defense. And what you get for people who want to bring in one of the fists is, in addition to gaining bonus damage from actually wearing a gauntlet instead of just attacking with your fists, Pathfinder treats you as a size category larger, 5e just increases your damage die by 1 type. But you eventually gain the ability to parry incoming attacks, both melee and ranged, and at higher levels you have the ability to just slap spells out of the way that target you, which is a lot of fun and kind of reminiscent of the old Fleischer Superman cartoon for anyone who watched that particular bit of animation. Second on the list, we have one of my personal favorites of the Risen Legion, and longtime readers of my work might recognize them from 100 Random Mercenary Companies, because that was where the idea sort of seeded itself. But as far as world lore goes, the Risen Legion is actually tied all the way back to Ma'ud, which I talked about in my video on the City of Bones, of when that city fell, way back in the before time, before the necromancers came and resurrected it and put to rest all of the things that were crawling through there. There were survivors, and those survivors came and they had to do something now that their city was gone. And what they chose to do was they used the various magic that they had learned and the spells that no one other than them could bring to the field, and they sold them for coin. And as a result, they brought huge armies of undead to bear. And now there's a lot of treaties and various other agreements that say that standard undead are not to be used in warfare. So they field normal troops, but even their normal troops are a little unusual. And one of the things that makes playing a Risen Legionnaire fun is you gain resistances slowly as your exposure to necromantic energy has changed your body. Things like disease, poison, fear, these no longer bother you in any edition you're playing. And one of the more fun aspects is your body is so used to absorbing negative energy that you can be resurrected using Animate Dead rather than any of the bigger, more expensive spells, which is something that can make keeping your character in the game a lot longer much easier at lower levels. And third, and this is one I particularly enjoyed, though, if you need to pick one edition or the other, you get far more out of the Pathfinder edition of these particular mercenaries than you do the 5e version. But the Grey Blades. And it's said that among the Grey Blades, they have forgotten more about waging war than anyone will ever learn. This is where old soldiers go when they retire, and they're primarily used as tutors and trainers, and they just pass on their knowledge to other people. But they're not above taking the field themselves, and when they do, all the old tricks come out to play. And part of what makes them a lot of fun, specifically for the Pathfinder edition, is they have to start at middle age or older as far as an age category goes, and they gain a lot of additional spells, they gain a lot of additional skills because they're a fighter archetype. But they also gain the ability to act more quickly using their mental stats rather than their physical stats, because they've just learned to look for the sights of a battle. They also gain the ability to aid their companions, both in melee and at a distance, just by shouting out the orders that they need to know, giving advice that'll help them overcome their foes. And then as sort of the capstone ability, and this is true for both editions, they have the ability to sort of cast off their old age for a little bit, and they can fight just like they did in their prime and show the youngins how it's really done. And they might complain for days afterwards about the ache in their joints, but everyone's gonna remember what old man Rogar did, and they're just gonna whisper what he must have been like back in the day. And those are sort of the 3 of the 10 that I think are most interesting, that could add probably the most mechanical benefit to any particular campaign, though each one has their own unique history and style, and some of them are more honorable, some of them are less honorable. So whether you need allies or you need antagonists, or you just need a neutral party there to sort of give your players a reason to oppose this particular occupying force, there's all sorts of stuff that you can add to your game, whether you're running it or whether you're a player who just wants a little more when people ask what you do and you just say, I'm a mercenary. And that's sort of a quick one for this week. There's not too much in depth to go into, but thanks for tuning in, everybody. And as usual, if there's a part of the setting I haven't covered, or something you find particularly interesting you want to know more about, or if there's anything you think I should add to my videos going forward, just let me know, and I will do my best to make it happen. So till then, happy gaming, everybody.